If you've even slightly tuned into World Cup downhill racing this year, then you're well aware of the tear that Jackson Goldstone has been on and how his riding style and bike setup are changing the way that others approach how to ride a downhill bike. But he's not the first to rewrite history aboard Santa Cruz's iconic V10 downhill bike. Since its inception in 2002, the V10 has been one of the most winning downhill bikes of all time. Now in its 8th generation, a lot has changed, but it has maintained its easily recognizable silhouette and VPP suspension design. I would say the phrase refined, not redefined, has never been more true. And like a marble statue, the V10 has slowly been etched away over the years to create the current version we have here today. So we know the V10 is obviously fast, but how does it manage to do that? What has Santa Cruz done to create such a successful downhill race bike? And for us average riders, what makes riding a bike like the V10 so special? That's what we're here to find out. Oh my God!
All right, what are our initial thoughts?
So it's a size large V10. I'm 6 foot and about 190 pounds. So the suspension is set up to Santa Cruz's recommendations. I have a 550 coil out back, and I have what I think is a pretty high fork pressure in the Fox 40. It's at like 92 PSI, which is a notable amount over what Fox recommends on their website. But Santa Cruz has a different philosophy, it seems like, and let's give it a shot. The first thing I noticed when hopping on the bike, I had it in the mid flip chip position for the head tube, the mid bottom bracket height position, and the mid chainstay length position. I noticed the reach felt a little short for my height. I'm typically around a 480 reach, and so I increased the length of the bike by going with the longer flip chip position. So I think it's about 480. I went to the low bottom bracket position just because the bars felt a little too low, even though the stack is pretty normal. My bottom bracket felt a little high for personal preference, so we'll start in the low position out back. And then for the rear, I think it's about a 455 mil chainstay length in the mid flip chip position, which is pretty common. So I'm going to start there, and then if I am interested in trying the longer position, so we'll flip to that later. I haven't ridden a modern V10. I haven't really ridden a V10 at all, only a handful of times. It's probably one of those bikes that you wouldn't be surprised if you heard the fact that it won the most World Cups out of any bike ever. It's cool that they don't have anything crazy going on. Like, you can just buy this bike off the shelf and go win a World Cup. I think that's really neat. It doesn't have anything crazy going on with the suspension. The VPP has been around a long time. There are pros and cons to it, but again, it wins World Cups, so it's hard to argue with that. And I've always heard that they pedal well, and just pedaling it around in the parking lot seems to pedal well, which, does that matter on a downhill bike? Maybe not, but if I'm in a race run and I'm halfway down the run and I have to pedal out of a corner, mentally, it helps me knowing that the bike has good pedal platform. It's encouraging. I'm not mad at the bike if I feel like I'm having a bad run, and halfway into that run, I'm like, this thing's slowing me down. It gives you the opposite feeling, which I think is nice.
The V10 uses Santa Cruz's lightest, stiffest, and strongest CC carbon layup, and the latest frame construction was tweaked to increase frame compliance and traction without going so far as to hinder its stability under aggressive riding. The rear wheel size is fixed, with size small through large rolling on mixed wheels, while size extra large rolls on dual 29-inch wheels. We tested a size large, which gave us the choice between a 451, 456, and 461 millimeter chainstay length, a reach of 464, 472, and 480 millimeters, a head angle of 62.7, 62.9, or 63 degrees, and 5 millimeters of bottom bracket height adjustment. The kinematics of the bike have been slightly altered compared to the previous generation. Anti-squat was lowered to improve suspension sensitivity. Anti-rise was also lowered to make the bike more active under braking. And the leverage rate was made more linear with a lower starting leverage ratio to improve the bike's responsiveness to rider input and overall consistency at different points in the travel. There are also plenty of nice touches spread throughout the frame. You've got integrated mud guards around the shock, integrated fork bumpers, an aggressive chain slap guard, tube-in-tube guided cable routing, a threaded bottom bracket, and a large down tube protector. In public? Gosh. I mean, I'm just gonna turn into Jackson Goldstone today. That's the whole goal. Okay, V10. Second rider to ride it. And initial thoughts, bouncing around the parking lot. Just feel the quality of it, like it's just a snug feeling bike. It's so smooth and supple off the top on the rear end. I'm questioning if maybe I'm a little oversprung and should go find a 500 spring at a bike shop around here, which I'm gonna do a couple laps and see. I'm sitting at not a ton of sag right now. Really, other than that, I'm gonna start off with the positions Ryan had the bike in, which is low, bottom bracket, medium chainstay, longer reach. I'm 6 foot, same as Ryan, and the fit feels really nice. Yeah, I'm just excited. I've ridden other Santa Cruz models and the VPP design, but never a V10, so a lot of expectations for the day. There are two V10 builds and a frame-only option that are on the pricier side, but they're not super out of touch with what premium downhill bikes go for these days. We tested the fanciest X01 build that retails for $8,899 and comes with a Fox Factory 40 with the Grip X2 damper, a Fox DHX2 factory coil shock, SRAM X01 drivetrain, and Maven silver brakes with a 220mm front and 200mm rear rotor, one-up cockpit with alloy bars, and then we swapped the Reserve 30 HD alloy wheels and Maxxis Askai DHR2 combo for our control wheels and tires, which is a set of Crank Brothers Synthesis 2.0 alloy wheels with DH casing, max grip, Maxxis high rollers. She was going so fast. She's going really fast.
So we've done 2 runs. The bike feels quite good. It's peppy and it's easy to corner, which is appreciated. I do feel like the fork is too firm. I wish I was using more travel than I am. On the first run, I only used like 5 inches of travel. On the second one, I've achieved about that, but I can feel that I'm floating around in the rough terrain a bit more than I want to be. I'm not as planted as I want to be. And because the bike is also pretty light, you kind of float away off trail when you get into the rough stuff. So I am adapting to the firmer setup that Santa Cruz recommends. I'm gonna give it one more shot. It's getting better and better, and I'm getting more and more used to it. And then after that, I might go to a softer setup because I want to soften up the fork so I don't ruin my hands immediately. And if I start to get tired on day 1 of testing, like that's not gonna be very fun for the rest of the test trip or any trip. So we'll keep it where it's at. I'm liking it.
Okay, a couple of laps in on the V10 and run through just some of my quick initial impressions. A very easy bike to get on and feel comfortable. To me, the Geo has a very familiar feeling. It's roomy, it's not too big. I was playing out the different adjustments and definitely going to the long chainstay put me a bit more balance on the bike. As I'll probably end up being kind of my bottom line on this bike, the thing that stood out the most is how versatile its abilities are. It plows through stuff crazy well, but at the same time, it has a really supportive suspension platform that makes it really lively. I think there's a reason we see riders like Jackson and Lori Greenland popping down racetracks because it's really easy to load it up and move the bike around. So it's been very impressive. I mean, I kind of expected the V10 to be good, but I've never ridden one, so you never know. And yeah, keep riding it, see what I find out. All right, we just wrapped up 2 days of testing Santa Cruz's V10. I want to kick this off by where we landed with setup. This bike has a lot of adjustability, so why don't you start with where you ended up?
Sure. So this bike has 3 positions for all 3 flip chips. We ended up in the longest reach setting, which puts us at about a 480 mil reach. the lowest position on the shock, which gives us a nice BB drop, and then mid position on the rear. That's where I ended up. Where did you end up?
I played around a little bit more with the options we have. I left the reach the same in the longest position. I started off with where you had it, which was middle and low, which felt good. And then because we have those adjustments, I felt it was necessary to see what happened. So I did long rear end. I know that is what most of the race team is running. Did add a little bit of stability, as you would assume. I think the biggest takeaway was that I felt a little bit more forward on the bike and more neutral. The other change I did is I went high BB, shortest rear end. Definitely amplifies how fun this bike is and how lively it is on jump trails. So I would say that's probably one of the coolest things of this bike is, yes, it's a race bike, but you have options to cater it to how you like to ride.
Yeah.
We tested a size large. We're both right around 6 foot tall, and I really found this bike easy to hop on and feel comfortable. The geometry was just neutral and easy to get along with. I know your experience was maybe a little bit different.
Yeah, but not negative. I think I've been getting used to bikes that keep getting lower and lower and bars keep getting higher and higher. And so as soon as I hopped on the bike, it felt, you know, like a bike that I had ridden in the past. So my feet were a little bit higher and my bars were a little bit lower. So my first inclination was to, okay, how do I get it back to like a lower BB and a higher bar? But I didn't want to mess with the bike too much because, you know, I hadn't ridden it yet. And I ran the bike with the recommended settings. So a 550 coil out back, and then about like, you know, I think a 94 PSI fork pressure, which I thought was pretty high, but I gave it a shot. It felt pretty good. I do want to say that like my hands are the first thing that give out. And so with the firm fork, I started to fatigue a little bit, but I did find the bike was very well balanced and very composed with what I thought was maybe a bit firmer of a setting and setup than I would normally run.
Yep.
But I'm glad I gave it a try because you could really charge with the firmer setup. And that is what this bike is really good at doing.
Yep. Let's move on, and we're going to touch on where was this bike exceptional and where did it really shine to you?
Yeah, I was impressed with how well it carried speed everywhere.
Okay.
Not just through the chunky terrain, but in the flats between it, in the pumpy sections, in the steeps and the lulls. No matter what, you're able to push into the bike and it felt like it accelerated. On top of that, when you pedaled it, it felt like it went. And I appreciated that because, you know, if you hit a corner wrong and you scrub speed and you're like, I need to get back up to speed, you mash on the pedals and it goes.
Yeah. I would say the average speed this bike carries is what stood out to me as well. And it is across different sections, not just when you are pedaling or where there's opportunity to pump the bike. It's also in steep bits where this bike drives a lot through compressions.
Yep.
And I kept thinking about the way Jackson Goldstone and Lori Greenland ride and how it's very lively and poppy. And that is the way they ride a bike, but this bike caters to that so well. And for some of the other bikes we've been testing this week will drive through holes and maybe be a little bit more muted. This bike, it's comfortable, it plows through things, but it also favors riders who are able to pick lines and hop over holes.
Yep.
Like you can be deep in the travel and still be able to push more body weight to get the wheels off the ground, which makes it super fun to ride.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take away how hard you can push and still have traction and grip and confidence and all those things.
Totally. Like there are bikes that are considered plow bikes and you kind of just have to ride it as it lies.
Yes.
And there's the line, I'm going to ride it, the bike's going to do what it's going to do. This can handle the chunky terrain, but when you need to be very delicate about where you place it, especially if there's a gap in a lily pad and then a gap out, you can place it quite perfectly. The bike doesn't feel too big, and then immediately pop. There's no delay from rider input to bike reaction. And that's, again, when you see Jackson pump down the track, I started just doing that because I could find like, oh, I'm gonna go over there, and then I'm gonna go over there. And I could do that very precisely and not be punished for it.
Yeah, that was the coolest part to me is you get all of that, but you don't have to give up being able to just, if you have to, just hold on and ride through something. It'll still do that just fine. It's really hard for me to pick out things I didn't like about the V10. I would say, as we were sort of just hinting at, the bike is very responsive and maybe isn't always the most muted or most plow heavy bike. So if you're looking to get a downhill bike where you can just sit on it and hold on and let it do a lot of the work for you, I don't think this would be my first option, but I don't want to give up how responsive the bike is and how exciting it can be to ride. So maybe that's not necessarily a downside. It's just knowing what you're looking for in your downhill bike.
Totally.
So I kicked this video off with saying how this is one of the most winningest World Cup bikes of all time. Why would you say that is after riding it?
It's really easy to get on and ride fast, and it goes very fast in all of the sections, whether it be chunk, whether it be like flat stuff even, pumpy, pedally. You can do all of that, and you can push yourself and the bike to their limits, and it never bites back. You just go. It's now up to you to ride the bike as fast as it can go. And I did not ride it as fast as the bike can go, obviously.
I like that. I would agree on all of those points. And probably, as I mentioned earlier, like the bike has a high average speed. And so much of that is you have a supportive suspension platform that allows you to drive so much energy into it, but also a platform that can handle those repetitive hits and big compressions and gives you the confidence to kind of keep riding faster and harder.
Yeah.
To wrap this up, for your everyday downhill bike park rider, why would you consider a V10? I mean, if it's a race bike, it's winning World Cups, why would you get it just to go ride bike parks, or would you?
I would. I mean, it has impressed me, especially at the bike park. We've ridden some pretty chunky downhill World Cup-like terrain this week, and it's impressed me there. It's easy to ride at the limit, but normally a bike that can do that doesn't do super well in the lower angle, tighter stuff. And this does, and it doesn't make sense necessarily, because usually you have to compromise for that ultimate control, ultimate speed, like in that low angle bike parky stuff. This doesn't at all. And I had a smile on my face the entire time.
Yeah, I think this balances World Cup racing downhill abilities with your ride a flow trail, hit jumps, go inside on a corner mentality. You get such a best of both worlds without, usually we're used to compromising in some way, and it's hard to pick where Santa Cruz compromised with this bike. And I would say too, the adjustability is a big thing. I think like getting to ride the bike in high with the short chainstay, feeling how high it rode through corners. I mean, it ripped corners in those settings. And then the main way we tested the bike with kind of more the race setup of being low and long.
Yeah.
You can change that in the parking lot if you want to have two very different days, which I think is quite cool and interesting.